Chapter 2909. Inside the barrier, the two adult purple gold spirit deer sometimes walked on the ground, sometimes leaped into the air, galloping in the air. The adult purple gold spirit deer had strong bodies and slender legs. Their bodies seemed to contain power, and every leap was full of power. Their purple fur and golden markings set off each other, and the strange pattern markings and luxurious and dazzling colors made them look exceptionally beautiful, especially the two long and curved antlers on their heads. Purple and gold spots were produced along the antlers, emitting a dazzling light under the sun. They were so beautiful that they didn't seem to belong to this world. They're really beautiful and pleasing to the eye. They're really worthy of being rare beasts in the world. Fengjiu couldn't help but exclaim. She felt that the two purple gold spirit deer were incomparably beautiful. Yes. Otherwise, how could Venerable Mu Xian treasure them so much? Wanyan Qianhua chuckled, looking at the two flying spirit deer, and said, "Moreover, these spirit deer can gallop in the air without wings. They're power type, and their fighting strength isn't weak. I'll go in and take a look." Fengjiu said, and flashed into the barrier, heading towards the two spirit deer. Wanyan Qianhua was startled, looking at Fengjiu who passed through the barrier. After a moment of surprise, she walked forward and said, "Can this barrier be entered?" Just as she was speaking, she saw that as soon as she touched the barrier, she was bounced back by an invisible force, and was forced to retreat a few meters. She was slightly startled, brushed her sleeves, and looked at the barrier in front of her with some doubts. Fengjiu could actually go in without the barrier being broken? At this time, Fengjiu, who was chasing the purple gold spirit deer in the barrier, had excitement in her eyes. For her, these were not only two spirit deer that were extremely ornamental and could fly, but also two precious elixirs. The antler powder of the purple gold spirit deer, as long as she scraped off a little bit, it would be a holy antidote. If it was used to make medicinal liquid or to refine pills, the detoxification effect would be increased several times. Taking advantage of the fact that Mu Xian hadn't arrived yet, she first scraped off some and put them away. Later, she would think of a way to get these two spirit deer. While he was pondering, the red figure flashed and caught one of the spirit deer. He released his ancient pressure, and the purple gold spirit deer, which wanted to escape, immediately lay down obediently. "Good girl." She stroked the purple gold spirit deer's head and said with a smile. At the same time, she took out a knife and a bottle from the space and carefully scraped off a layer of antler powder from the deer's antlers. The purple gold spirit deer looked at Fengjiu with its watery eyes, one purple and one gold. It had a pitiful look on its face as it let out soft cries. Fengjiu scraped a small bottle of powder from its antlers before patting its head. With a flip of her palm, a pill appeared between her fingers. "This is your compensation." She chuckled and spread out the pill. The purple gold spirit deer smelled the pill and its eyes flashed with joy. It opened its mouth and stretched out its tongue, swallowing the pill in Fengjiu's palm, and then rubbed its head against her palm. Chapter 2910. Fengjiu chuckled as she rubbed the purple gold spirit deer's head. She then took out a pill and spread it out in her palm. "Eat. I have enough antler powder, you don't need to scrape it off." "Ing." The purple gold spirit deer cried out in joy. It stuck out its tongue and swallowed the pill in Fengjiu's palm. Then it licked Fengjiu's palm, causing her to chuckle. It said that your speed is extremely fast. Let's test your speed. Come and chase me. Let's see how fast you are. She said warmly as she patted the two spirit deer's head. "Do you understand?" "Ing." The two purple gold spirit deer nodded and stood up. When they stood up, they were taller than Fengjiu by more than half. Fengjiu turned around and flew into the air. "Come quickly." As soon as her voice fell, the two purple gold spirit deer chased after her. Wanyan Qianhua, who was outside the barrier, couldn't help but open her beautiful eyes wide in astonishment. Two purple gold spirit deer that didn't like strangers were actually chasing her. What on earth had she done? Why were these two spirit deer so obedient to her? On the other side, CK, who heard a disciple say that Fengjiu went to the medicine field, quickly rushed to the medicine field. However, when he arrived, he saw another disciple squatting in the medicine field. He looked around and didn't see Fengjiu's figure, so he asked, "Didn't you say that your martial ancestor came? Why didn't I see?" Hiss. Before he finished speaking, his gaze fell on the medicine field in front of him. He sucked in a breath of cold air and suddenly strode forward. "Where is my 1,000-year-old seven-leaf fire spirit flower? Why is there only one pit left? Who is so bold? Who dares to steal my 1,000-year-old spirit herb?" The disciple was so scared that his face turned white. He stammered, Master, it's the martial ancestor. It's the martial ancestor who dug it. Also, the two over here." He pointed to the side and couldn't continue. When he heard this and saw the other two pits, he almost fainted from anger. The 3 stalks of the oldest spirit herbs were gone just like that. "No. I'm going to get it back." He turned around and walked out. However, before he left the herb field, he bumped into Venerable Mu Xian, who was walking in from outside. Venerable Mu Xian saw that he was so angry that his face turned red as if he was going to kill someone. He asked in surprise, "What's wrong? What happened?" "Our good master. You actually dug out my 3 stalks of 1,000-year-old spirit herbs." CK took a deep breath. She felt like the anger in her heart was about to explode, but she couldn't find an outlet. Hearing this, Mu Xian was stunned. "Your 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs? Ha ha ha. You deserve to be dug up. Who asked you to plant such precious spirit herbs in this medicinal field and even let people come and go as they please? If I had known, I would have set up a barrier." "No. I'm going to get it back. I was going to ask Yao Feng to help me refine those 3 spirit herbs into pills. Now that she has taken them, CK became more and more anxious as he spoke. Mu Xian, who was watching from the side, hurriedly comforted him. Okay, don't worry. She's not an alchemist, so it's useless even if she took them. She probably just wants to take something from us." He smiled and said, "Later, I'll accompany you to get them back from Master." Chapter 29:11. But she had planted the 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs among the other spiritual herbs, so how did she recognize the 3 spiritual herbs? CK was puzzled. At this moment, a disciple ran in, panting. Seeing that it was not a disciple from his peak, he asked, "Whose disciple are you? What are you doing here?" Venerable Mu Xian looked back and asked in surprise, "Why are you here?" "Your disciple." CK looked at Mu Xian and asked. Mu Xian smiled and said, "Yes, he's a disciple in charge of guarding the purple gold spirit deer." As he spoke, the smile on his face froze. He quickly grabbed the disciple's collar and asked anxiously, "Don't tell me that your grandmaster went to the main peak?" Yes. The disciple panted and nodded quickly. Seeing CK's shocked face, he quickly said, "Master, Grandmaster went to the purple gold spirit deer." Phew. Mu Xian took a deep breath and let go of the disciple's collar. He waved his hand as if to comfort himself and said, It's okay. I don't plant any spiritual herbs on my peak. Even if there are precious things, I've set up barriers and formations. She can't go in. Hearing this, the disciple opened his mouth and looked at CK in front of him. In the end, he braced himself and said, "Master." Then Grandmaster went in. Where did she go? Mu Xian glanced at him and asked. She went into the barrier where the purple gold spirit deer were kept. The disciple said and carefully took a step back. She broke my barrier. Mu Xian glared and asked angrily in a low voice. No, Grandmaster didn't break the barrier. She just walked in. Then the two purple gold spirit deer followed behind her and played with her. They were very close to Grandmaster. The disciple whispered and stole a glance at his master. Seeing that his master didn't believe him, he added, "It's true. If you don't believe me, master, go back and take a look." CK was also startled. He knew about the purple gold spirit deer. It wasn't close to strangers. How could it be with their master? This shouldn't be the case. Immediately, he said to Mu Xian, "Let's go and take a look. Speaking of which, master is very strange. If you're late, your two purple gold spirit deer might be taken away by her." Hearing this, Mu Xian immediately became anxious. He took to his heels and rushed out while roaring, "Those are the two treasures that I've been feeding Jean Yu since she was young. Whoever dares to snatch them from me, I'll fight them." When CK saw this, she hurriedly chased after her. The two of them were running like the wind, and Mu Xian was in a hurry. It didn't take long for the news to spread throughout the entire sect. It was said that the master of CK and Mu Xian had dug out CK's 3,000-year-old elixirs and then went to Mu Xian's purple gold spirit deer. It seemed that she had designs on the purple gold spirit deer. For a time, the entire immortal sect was talking about this. There were even some curious disciples who followed behind the two venerables, planning to watch the show. When Mu Xian arrived at the purple gold spirit deer's location like the wind, she saw dozens of disciples surrounding it. She immediately shouted angrily, "What are you all doing here? Hurry up and disperse." As soon as she shouted, the disciples quickly dispersed and made a path for her. Chapter 29:12. Inside the barrier, Fengjiu, dressed in red, was about to leave, but the two purple gold spirit deer bit her robe and pulled her back, not letting her go. Seeing this scene, he only felt that his previous cognition had been overturned. God knows how many gold jades and treasures he had fed these two purple gold spirit deer before they let him touch them. What was going on now? His two treasures were unwilling to let Fengjiu leave. Were they crazy? Or did they take the wrong medicine? "Don't bite. It'll be troublesome if you tear my robe," Fengjiu said helplessly. She turned around and patted the heads of the two spirit deer, saying, "Be good, let go, let go." Unexpectedly, the two purple gold spirit deer bit the corner of her robe tightly and shook their heads, indicating that they didn't want her to leave. Seeing this, Fengjiu helplessly looked outside the barrier and saw Mu Xian standing there in a daze with her eyes almost popping out. She shouted, "Mu Xian, come here." Mu Xian stepped forward in a daze and asked, What's going on? Why did my purple gold spirit deer?" Fengjiu spread out her hands and said innocently, "I don't know. They seemed to like me when I came in. As you can see, they don't let me go. I'm also helpless." She turned her eyes slightly and said with a smile, "Mu Xian, it must be very difficult for you to raise these two spirit deer, right?" Hearing this, Mu Xian shivered and asked defensively, "Master, what do you want to do?" "I thought that if it's difficult for you to raise these two spirit deer, I can help," she said with a smile. "Master, you don't have to worry. I'm used to raising them. I don't think it's difficult to raise them," he quickly said. "I see. Okay then." Fengjiu shrugged and said, "Can you tell them not to bite the corner of my robe now?" Hearing this, Venerable Mu Xian stepped forward, took out a handful of gold coins, and placed them in his palm. "Come, let's eat." However, the two purple gold spirit deer didn't even look at him and moved to the side as if they were avoiding him. Mu Xian's mouth twitched and the veins on his forehead popped out. Seeing this, Fengjiu chuckled and said to the two spirit deer, "Let go, I'll come back tomorrow." Hearing this, the two purple gold spirit deer released their jaws and looked at Fengjiu. Their mouths were still crying as if they were saying that they must come tomorrow. CK walked over and looked at Fengjiu, who was standing inside the barrier, and asked, "Master, can you return the 3,000-year-old herbs in my medicine field to me?" Upon hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at CK and asked with a smile, "Are you an alchemist?" "No," CK said, "but I want to ask Yao Feng to refine the 3 herbs into pills for me." "Is it the Scarlet Cloud pill?" Fengjiu asked. CK was startled and asked, "Master, you know?" Fengjiu smiled and said, "The Scarlet Cloud pill is an 8th grade pill. It's refined with the help of 108 different herbs. Among them, 10 of the main herbs must be at least 1,000 years old." She paused and turned her eyes, slowly saying, "A Scarlet Cloud pill can double the size and toughness of an enlightened master's meridians. It can also help an enlightened master break through to the perfection realm of the enlightened master and improve one's strength." Chapter 29:13. Pill venerates badge. He cried out in surprise, his eyes widening as he stared at the badge on Fengjiu's chest in disbelief. Her strength was already so abnormal, but other than that, she was also a pill venerate? Fengjiu thought for a moment, then said, "I've been busy recently, so I didn't go to the Alchemy Guild for the assessment. I think that with my current alchemy skills, I should have reached the level of a pill deity." Hearing this, CK's entire body trembled with excitement. He felt his blood rush to his head. Pill deity? Master has reached the level of a pill deity. Then wouldn't she be able to refine pills that ordinary alchemists couldn't? Thinking of this, he became excited. "Master, are those 3 stalks of spirit medicine enough? If not, I'll go pick some more for Master. I also have 1,000-year snow lingji that I've treasured for a long time. Master, I'll bring it to you." CK's mind was blank, he probably didn't know what to say anymore. He only knew that his master was a powerful alchemist, and she could refine pills that other alchemists couldn't. At that moment, he only wanted to give her his treasured spiritual herbs to please her. In the future, he could ask her to refine pills that could help them advance or even save their lives. Seeing CK run away, Mu Xian was also stunned. He didn't react for a long time. What's going on? He stared at the badge on Fengjiu's chest and asked hesitantly, "Master, are you really a pill venerate alchemist?" "Yes." Fengjiu nodded, "Didn't you see it? This badge can't be fake." Mu Xian sucked in a breath, then asked, But, aren't you a profound and spiritual dual cultivator? How are you a pill venerate alchemist?" "And a pill venerate alchemist?" Fengjiu pursed his lips and smiled, "Your master is very capable, this is just the tip of the iceberg. It is your fortune to be able to acknowledge me as your master." Mu Xian was stunned. Looking at the smiling Fengjiu, he suddenly felt that this master was really abnormal. Maybe it was really as she said, she had a lot of abilities. Maybe it was really their fortune to have such a powerful master. Thinking of CK's actions just now, Mu Xian hesitated and asked, "Master, do you like my 2 purple gold spirit deer?" Those 2 little things are not bad. They are indeed rare treasures." Fengjiu nodded and looked back at the 2 purple gold spirit deer. Hearing this, Venerable Mu Xian took a deep breath and said, "Since Master has taken a fancy to them, I will give these 2 purple gold spirit deer to Master. Take it as my filial piety." As he spoke, he waved his hand to remove the boundary. The 2 purple gold spirit deer quickly ran out and jumped to Fengjiu's side. Seeing this, Mu Xian's mouth twitched. In any case, he had raised them for so many years. How could they be subdued by a person he had only met once? How could he not feel depressed? "Although I am your master, it is somewhat unreasonable to take away your 2 treasures," Fengjiu said and glanced at the 2 purple gold spirit deer. Mu Xian smiled bitterly, "It is because these 2 spirit deer are rare treasures that disciple can give them to Master. Master, please accept them. It is also a small token of my appreciation." Chapter 29:14. Of course. Mu Xian nodded. Although it pained him, he didn't show it on his face. He had raised those 2 spirit deer for so long, and had fed them so much gold and jade to grow into what they were today. But now, The two spirit deer were staring at him, their master, and didn't even look at him, the person who had raised them. Their hearts were no longer with him, so what was the point of keeping them? It was better to give them away as a favor. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled and looked at him, saying, "In that case, I'll accept it." As she spoke, she moved her hand and a bottle of pills appeared in her palm. "This pill is for you. Although it's not as amazing as the Scarlet Cloud pill, it can help you break through your current threshold," Fengjiu said and looked at Wanyan Qianhua. "Sister, let's go back." "Okay." Wanyan Qianhua walked forward and looked at the two purple gold spirit deer beside her with some surprise. He didn't expect that she would obtain so many treasures just by coming out for a walk. Thus, Wanyan Qianhua flew on the white crane, Fengjiu sat on one of the spirit deer, and the other spirit deer stepped into the air beside them and went back to the cave residence. At that moment, Mu Xian still hadn't recovered from his shock. He stared blankly at the medicinal pill in his hand. He suddenly turned around and took it out to take a look. When he did, his hand trembled and he almost dropped the medicinal pill on the ground. A 7th-level top-grade pill. He exclaimed and hurriedly put the pill back into the bottle and went back to the cave residence. He planned to try this pill and see if it could really help him break through his current threshold, as she said. After they left, the surrounding disciples also dispersed. They were all discussing what had just happened. Therefore, it didn't take long for the entire sect to know that the master of CK and Mu Xian was not only a powerful person, but also a pill venerable level alchemist. She casually gave the extremely precious 7th-grade elixir to venerable Mu Xian. After receiving the elixir, Mu Xian quickly returned to her cave residence. Once the news spread, it caused a great commotion in the sect. When the immortal monarch of the immortal sect was about to call Mu Xian to ask about it, he was informed that venerable Mu Xian had already gone into seclusion. Therefore, the immortal monarch summoned a few alchemists from the pill refining mountain. The few alchemists who heard the news were also surprised. Pill venerable? That was impossible, right? Fengjiu was so young, how could he be a mystic spirit cultivator and a pill venerable level pill master? However, at that time, it was said that many disciples had seen her take out a pill venerable's badge and wear it on her chest. Thus, they were really quite curious about this matter. If she really was a pill venerable, then they wanted to discuss the Tao of pill refinement with her. On the other side, CK, who had heard the news, brought the 1,000-year-old elixir that he had treasured for many years to Fengjiu's cave residence and asked for an audience. "Master, disciple CK requests an audience." In the past, he wouldn't have called himself a disciple. However, things were different now. He looked at the cave residence eagerly and tried his best to calm himself down. "Sister, sit down and have a cup of tea first," Fengjiu said from inside the cave residence. He let Wanyan Qianhua have a cup of tea first, then stood up and walked out. Chapter 29:15. Master. CK hurriedly bowed when he saw her and presented the box to her with both hands. "Master, this is a 1,000-year-old snow Ganoderma that I've collected for many years. Please accept it." Fengjiu didn't accept it. Instead, she clasped her hands behind her back and looked at him. "Take this snow Ganoderma back. I dug up 3 of your 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. When the time comes and the Scarlet Cloud pill is refined, I'll give one to you." Upon hearing this, CK's heart skipped a beat. He looked at her. "Master." The Scarlet Cloud pill required more than just a few spiritual herbs. He had only dug up 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs, yet he was able to get one. "This bottle can be considered as a gift for you to become my disciple." Fengjiu turned her palm and a bottle of pills appeared in her hand. "These aren't pills for advancement, but they can save your life. There are 3 pills in here. If you take them in a dangerous situation, they can save your life." "Thank you, Master." CK excitedly reached out and carefully accepted the bottle. He looked at the box in his hand and said, Master, please accept this 1,000-year-old snow Ganoderma. Otherwise, I'll feel guilty and uneasy. He once again presented the snow Ganoderma to her. Fengjiu was silent for a moment before reaching out to accept it. Since that's the case, I'll accept it. Thank you, Master. CK was delighted. He smiled and asked, Master, are you really not going to stay in the immortal sect for long? Yes, we plan to leave in 2 days. Fengjiu replied. Which town would you like to go to? If there's no specific place, I'm willing to arrange it for you. Fengjiu wanted to refuse, but then she remembered that her sister had said that CK and Mu Xian had powerful families behind them. Thus, she said, the nearest town to the immortal sect is Four Corner City. It's said that it's the most prosperous town in the area. If there's anyone familiar with the area, please have someone find us a residence there. Upon hearing this, CK respectfully replied, Don't worry, Master. I'll take care of this. He bowed and retreated. Immediately, he sent a disciple to Four Corner City. Back inside, Fengjiu told Xianyuan Mose and Wanyan Qianhua about Quebec. Finally, she said, since he asked that question, I'll let him make the arrangements. Letting him make the arrangements will save us a lot of trouble. Venerable CK's family branch is in Four Corner City. He only needs to give an order. In the meantime, you can stay here at ease. It won't be too late to leave after he has made the arrangements, Wanyan Qianhua said with a smile and took a sip of tea to moisten his throat. Yes. Yes, Fengjiu replied. Looking at Xianyuan Mose, he asked, Sister, did you see a man called Mo Chen come here before us? Mo Chen had come here before them. But they'd been here for a day or two, and hadn't heard anything about him. Xianyuan asked about this just now. I've never seen that man called Mo Chen before, but I heard that someone came down from the immortal stairs. But no one knows where that person went. Wanyan Qianhua said. Fengjiu was surprised, don't all people who come down from the immortal stairs come to this sect? Chapter 29:16. It's also possible that he has something to do. When he's done, he'll probably come find us, Xianyuan Mose said, then took a sip of tea. He knows that we'll come. Fengjiu nodded, maybe. But he was worried about Mo Chen when he didn't see him. I should go back. When you're ready to leave, I'll send you into the city. Wanyan Qianhua said, standing up. Fengjiu also stood up and sent her out before returning. Xianyuan Mose looked at the 2 spirit deer and asked, What's the use of these 2 spirit deer? Fengjiu smiled, I'm going to let them pull the carriage. We'll find some time to build a carriage and let these 2 purple gold spirit deer pull it. When we go out, we'll be able to sit in the carriage. She smiled and said, Moreover, these purple gold spirit deer are treasures. The antlers are precious antidotes. This time, we've really profited. You've gotten these, but you still have to give them some pills, right? You can't say that. After all, they're our disciples. For us, pills are easy to get. It's worth it to give them these things as a favor. Fengjiu smiled and said, Look, CK also brought the 1,000-year snow Ganoderma. With one hand supporting her cheek, she took out the snow Ganoderma with the other and looked at it. She said, I'll help him refine this into a pill later. She then asked, Oh right, have you finished reading that book? I haven't read a third of it, Xianyuan Mose said, but I've roughly figured it out. He took out a map and said to her, Look, it's like this. In the cave, Xianyuan Mose explained the distribution of the continent to her in detail, as well as some of the powers and sections. As for CK, she instructed her disciples to go down the mountain, and then she was summoned by the immortal master. In Venerable Mu Xian's cave residence, he was cultivating in seclusion after taking the pill. The next day, he finally broke through the threshold that he had been unable to cross. He could not help but be overjoyed. As peak heavenly god-level powerhouses, it was extremely difficult for them to even take a small step forward. Now, with just a single pill, he had actually crossed the threshold of cultivation and made a small breakthrough. Even if it was only a small breakthrough, according to his usual cultivation speed, this small breakthrough would take at least 10 years. Now, it actually only took him a day and a night. How could he not be overjoyed? He walked out of the immortal's cave feeling refreshed. Just as he was about to tell his master about the effects of the pill he had taken, he saw a disciple in front of him quickly walking over. Venerable Mu Xian, the immortal master ordered me to wait here. Once you come out of seclusion, I'm to invite the immortal master over. He has something to ask you, the disciple said respectfully. The disciple said respectfully as he secretly sized up Venerable Mu Xian. He wanted to see if there was any difference after Venerable Mu Xian had consumed the elixir. However, he was too weak to see the difference. The immortal master is looking for me. Venerable Mu Xian was stunned for a moment. He thought for a moment and realized what the immortal master wanted, so he said, "All right, I'll go over now." With that, he flicked his sleeves, gathered his chi, and flew on his sword to the main peak where the immortal master was. Chapter 29:17. I heard that Fengjiu gave you an elixir. Is it really that powerful? Venerable Lingmu looked at Mu Xian and clicked his tongue in wonder. Ha, I did make a small breakthrough, Venerable Mu Xian said with a smile, then asked, why are you here? Did the immortal call you here too? Venerable Lingmu stared at him, then sat down and said, I heard that you came out of seclusion, so I came to take a look. You've only been in seclusion for a day and a night, but you actually made a breakthrough. That's incredible. Yes. According to the cultivation speed of the past, taking this small step would take about 10 years or so. I have to say, Honored Master is indeed worthy of being a senior alchemist, just a pill he casually took out is already so powerful, Yang Kai said sincerely, his heart filled with admiration. Yes, your two masters haven't come out since they entered the cave. Yesterday, the immortal sent people to invite them, but they failed. It's not easy to see them. Venerable Lingmu looked at him and said, you and CK are lucky to have Fengjiu as your master. You'll benefit a lot in the future. Hearing this, Venerable Mu Xian laughed, we didn't think about that at first. We were just willing to admit defeat. Master is an alchemy venerable. We didn't expect him to be an alchemy venerable. That's why you've profited. I heard from my Qian Hua that Fengjiu is an incredible person. An enchanting and beautiful figure walked out. The two looked over and saw Venerable Snow Jade. They asked, is there something else we don't know? Venerable Snow Jade knows. Another voice rang out. The few of them looked over and saw the immortal monarch and a few old men walking out together. Behind them, there were two alchemists. Greetings, immortal master and several elders. The three people bowed respectfully. Sit down. The immortal master waved his hand and then looked at Venerable Snow Jade, saying, Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu come from the lower realm. It's difficult for us to find out about the lower realm, so we don't know what kind of people they are. Since your disciple knows, did you ask for details? Venerable Snow Jade smiled, Immortal Master, how can I ask for details? Qian Hua is Fengjiu's sworn sister. She is also on Fengjiu's side. Moreover, you know what kind of person Qian Hua is. If she doesn't want to say anything, she won't say anything even if I break my mouth. She smiled, however, I heard her say that Fengjiu is not only excellent in alchemy, but his medical skills are even more outstanding. Hearing this, everyone was slightly surprised, especially Venerable Mu Xian, who found it hard to believe. He knew how powerful his master's medicinal pills were. If the medicinal effects of the medicinal pills were like this, then his medical skills must be extraordinary as well. When the immortal master heard this, his heart moved slightly. He was still thinking that if he could, he would recruit Fengjiu and Xianyuan Mose and make them a part of their immortal sect. In this way, if the immortal sect was in danger in the future, it would be much easier to ask them to help. The elders were silent. No one knew what they were thinking. The two alchemy masters behind them looked at each other, then looked at Venerable Mu Xian and asked, Venerable Mu Xian, do you still have that pill? Chapter 29:18. Mu Xian glanced at them and said, Immortal Monarch, if there's nothing else, I'll go to my master's place first. Hearing this, the Immortal Monarch took a deep breath and said, Go. Mu Xian will take his leave. After bowing, he nodded to everyone and left first. Watching him leave, the two alchemists said, Immortal Monarch, Venerable Mu Xian's strength has indeed broken through the threshold. With his strength at the peak of the divine realm, it's not easy for him to break through to the peak of divine realm. Even a small step will take him 10 years. Now, because of a pill, it only took him 1 day and 1 night to shorten his cultivation time by 10 years. Fengjiu's alchemy skills are indeed extraordinary. That's true. The Immortal Monarch nodded and sighed, it's a pity that the two of them are unwilling to become our sect's consecrators. The two of them were powerful, and one of them was a venerable alchemist. The other alchemists had no fate with their sect. It could only be said that they had missed the opportunity. Ling Mu and Venerable Snow Jade looked at each other and then said, Immortal Monarch, we still have something to deal with in the peak, so we'll take our leave first. With that, they also turned and left. Seeing this, the Immortal Monarch didn't say anything. He just waved his hand and said to the others, you can go back too. With that, he also left with his hands behind his back. It's reasonable to say that even if Xianyuan Mo's and Fengjiu are unwilling to be our sect's consecrators, it's not a big deal. But why do I feel that the Immortal Monarch seems to be very worried? One of the alchemists looked at the elders and asked. I can feel it too. Another alchemist nodded. Don't think too much. The Immortal Monarch just wants our sect to have more outstanding talents. One of the elders said with a smile and said to the two alchemists, you two can go back first. Venerable Mu Xian is now going to his master's place. If you two go with him now, maybe you can ask Fengjiu about the pill. Hearing this, the two alchemists' eyes lit up and they hurriedly said, then we'll go first. With that, they hurriedly left. After they left, the elders looked at each other and sighed softly, even the two alchemists who are obsessed with pills can see it. The other person said, actually, the two of them took in CK and Mu Xian as disciples. This way, it doesn't mean that it has nothing to do with our immortal sect. I think that if we really need help in the future, we should ask them for help. If we want them to help us in the future, we have to let them feel the goodwill of our sect. However, the Venerables made things difficult for them, and the Immortal Monarch didn't stop them. I'm afraid. Hearing this, the others frowned and couldn't help but sigh softly. Maybe the Immortal Monarch put his hopes on CK and Mu Xian because of this. After saying this, they looked at each other speechlessly. In the end, they shook their heads and left together. Chapter 29:19. Oh. You've come out. CK looked at him and scanned his body. Sensing the surging aura on his body, he couldn't help but praise, Master's pills are truly divine. It's only been a day and a night, but your aura has changed. That's true. That's why I wanted to tell Master about it as soon as I came out, but I didn't expect to be summoned by the Immortal Master's men as soon as I left the cave. Mu Xian stopped and looked at CK. I think the Immortal Master must be regretting it now. Both masters have their own plans. Let's not talk about it, CK said with a wave of his hand. Hearing this, Mu Xian asked, did Master give you any medicinal pills? CK, who was about to step forward, paused and looked at him with a smile, yes. Really? What kind of pills are they? Mu Xian was slightly surprised and immediately asked. He wanted to know the effects of the pills. Master gave me 3 life-saving pills. She said that they might give me a chance of survival in times of crisis, CK said. His heart trembled as he thought of the 3 pills in the bottle. I wonder how effective those 3 pills are. Now that he had the 3 pills, he really wanted to take them out and take a look. However, when he thought about how they were life-saving pills, he didn't dare to waste them. 3 pills? Mu Xan was stunned. His voice rose slightly as he stared at CK. I only have 1 pill, but you have 3. What grade are they? Take them out and let me see. At this moment, he didn't look like a venerable at all. CK glanced at him and coughed lightly. It's my business that master gave me 3 pills. Don't stare at me like you've been starving for a long time. No matter how much you stare, I won't give you one. Mu Xian's mouth twitched. He seemed to realize that he had lost his composure. He coughed lightly and said, why would I think that? I just want to see what kind of pills master gave you. It's useless to look at other people's things, CK said casually as he walked forward. Mu Xian was stunned for a moment, then shook his head and laughed, that's right. It's useless to look at other people's things. Even if he looked at them, they wouldn't belong to him. Why would he look at them? The two walked towards the cave residence. Mu Xian glanced at him and asked, I'm here to tell master about the effects of the pills. What are you here for? Oh. You don't know. Master asked me to find a residence for them in Four Corner City. Now that the matter has been settled, I naturally came to inform master. Master and they're going to stay in Four City. Isn't that very close to us? Mu Xian was delighted. Four City was the closest and most prosperous city to their sect. If they stayed there, it would be easy for them to find their 2 masters in the future. I've already chosen a place. It's up to the 2 masters to see if they're satisfied, CK said as they arrived in front of the cave residence and let the 2 disciples who were guarding it pass the message. Seeing this, Mu Xian also waited outside. Not long after, a red figure walked out of the cave residence. When the 2 saw her, they immediately cupped their hands and bowed, disciples greet master. Chapter 29-20. You're here. Have you settled the matters regarding the mansion? Fengjiu asked as he glanced at the 2 of them. With one glance, he knew that Mu Xian had taken the elixir and crossed the threshold. Master, I'm here to report that after taking the elixir, it's really miraculous. Mu Xian said joyfully and respectfully. Yes, I can see that. Fengjiu nodded. Master, the disciples we sent to Sifang City have returned. They said that the mansions prepared for you 2 have been arranged. This is the title deed. CK took out a box from her sleeve and handed it over. Hearing this, Fengjiu opened it and glanced at it. He said, since that's the case, let's go down the mountain today. The people in the space were still unconscious. It was time to wake them up. I'll send you off, master. The 2 of them said in unison. There's no need. The address is on the title deed. We can go there ourselves. She waved her hand and turned to walk inside. Seeing that Xianyuan Mose was cultivating in the cave, she packed up her things and thought that she would call him later. Unexpectedly, he came out after a while. Did they send the title deed? Xianyuan Mose asked. Yes, they said that they've chosen a mansion. I think it's about time to leave. Fengjiu said, but I still have to tell my sister. They're quite fast. Xianyuan Mose said, since that's the case, I'll go with you to say goodbye. Okay. She responded. The 2 of them had only taken out some small things, so there wasn't much to pack. They simply put some things into the space. The 2 of them left the cave. The people outside were still waiting. Seeing them come out, 2 disciples in green asked, Grandmaster, are you going down the mountain? Will you come back in the future? Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. He looked at the 2 and said, yes, I'm going down the mountain. As for whether I'll come back in the future, that's hard to say. Her gaze swept across the 2 disciples. Seeing that they were only at the peak of the foundation establishment stage, she took out 2 bottles and gave one to each of them. These 2 bottles each contain a medicinal pill. It can help you break through to the peak of the foundation establishment stage. The two of them looked at her in surprise and immediately knelt down to thank her. Thank you, Grand Master. Thank you, Grand Master. Seeing this, CK and Mu Xian said to Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu, we will keep this cave residence for you. If you have nothing to do, you can come back and stay for a few days. Are they leaving? Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu looked over at the same time. They saw Wanyan Qianhua riding a red-crowned crane towards them. When the red-crowned crane landed, she walked over as well. Sister, we were just about to go and say goodbye to you. Fengjiu said. He walked up to her and held her hand. He smiled and said, I didn't expect you to come over. Did you know that we were leaving today? How would I know that you were leaving today? I received a mission and had to go out, so I came over to say goodbye to you. I didn't expect you to leave today. Wanyan Qianhua said. Looking at the two of them, she asked, is the residence ready? Yes, it's ready. You can move in once you get there. Fengjiu said. Chapter 29-21. Sister, is your mission dangerous? Fengjiu asked. That won't happen. I can handle it. Wanyan Qianhua looked at CK and Mu Xian with a smile. Supremacies, are you going to send them off too? Looking at Wanyan Qianhua, the two of them smiled and replied, of course. Since the masters are leaving, as disciples, we naturally have to send them off. Seeing that everyone was here, Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu asked them to send them off at the Immortal Sect's gate before letting them go back. When the Immortal Sect's immortal masters heard that they were leaving, they stood on the main peak and watched from afar. Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu walked down the mountain. When they reached a place where there was no one around, they scanned the surroundings with their divine senses. After confirming that there was no one around, Xianyuan Mose said, you can wake them up here. Okay, Fengjiu replied. With a wave of his sleeve, Leng Hua and the others appeared in front of them. Fengjiu bent down and picked up little Hao. After unsealing his acupuncture points, he carried him to Xianyuan Mose. Then, he took out some medicine and brushed it under their noses. Not long after, they all woke up. Master! Master! The people lying on the ground saw the lush leaves above their heads and couldn't help but be startled. They quickly stood up and looked around. Master, where are we? This continent is called the Star Continent. It's also called the Upper Realm by the people from the Lower Realm. This is the territory of the Blue Star Immortal Sect, one of the 4 major immortal sects. The place we're going to now is Four Corner City. It's located in the southeast of the Blue Star Immortal Sect, Fengjiu said as his smiling eyes swept across everyone. Four Corner City. Hui Lang was startled. There's a Four Corner City here too. Yes, this Four Corner City isn't the same Four Corner City. Naturally, it's different from where we were originally. Fengjiu said, then said to everyone, alright, you guys have slept for a few days. Let's slowly move your muscles and bones. The residences in the city have already been prepared and are just waiting for us to move in. Hearing this, everyone could not help but be slightly startled. The mansion was already prepared? How could he be so fast? Who prepared it? A series of questions popped up in their minds, but no one asked. What they should know would be known sooner or later, and what they shouldn't know was not something they could ask. Leng Hua, this is the title deed. Keep it. Fengjiu handed the title deed to Leng Hua. Yes. Leng Hua took it and opened it. Seeing that it was indeed a deed for a mansion, he looked at the location of the mansion and put it away. The dozen or so people stretched their muscles and bones, and after circulating their spiritual power throughout their bodies, they continued their journey to Four Corner City. At noon, they arrived outside Four Corner City. When they saw the words on the city gate, they couldn't help but feel excited. Was this the place where they would stay and cultivate in the future? Their gazes involuntarily turned towards the city. Looking into the distance, they saw a bustling scene. The group walked in. After entering the city gate, Len Hua said, "Master, there's a tea house up ahead. You guys should rest and have a cup of tea first. Du Fan and I will go and find the location of the mansion first." "All right." Feng Jiu nodded and said, "Be careful. If you encounter any trouble, try not to fight with others. Also, Guemo and Luoyu, you two go as well." "Yes." The four of them responded and walked forward. Chapter 29-22. Len Hua and the others asked around about the distribution of places in the city. When they found out that their mansion was located in the most expensive and difficult to obtain place in the city, they couldn't help but feel a little surprised. "That's strange. Master just arrived here. How did he manage to buy a mansion in such a good location?" According to those people, every inch of land here is worth an inch of gold. Even if you have money, you might not be able to buy a mansion here. As Luo Yu spoke, he walked into a less populated alley and looked left and right. He saw that this place was surrounded by mansions. However, there was a distance of about 10 meters between each mansion. Each mansion was independent and luxurious. Moreover, there were 2 guards standing at the entrance of each mansion. When the guards saw them, they all stared at them and sized them up. Their gazes seemed to be saying, "How did these people come to such a place? The people who live here should be part of the forces in the city. Master really knows how to find a place. He actually found a place like this." Du Fan waved his fan and smiled. "Actually, this is also good. Ordinary people won't come here. It can save us a lot of trouble." Len Hua smiled warmly. This place shouldn't be chosen by Master. If Master had chosen it himself, he would have chosen a quiet and inconspicuous place for his mansion. However, it is undeniable that this place, whether it is the surroundings or the mansion, looks very exquisite and luxurious. I think it will be very comfortable to live here. Yes, this place should be good for cultivation. When the time comes, we can set up a spirit gathering formation and cultivate here. Du Fan said. Hearing their words, Guemo glanced at the guards and said, "I think that before Master moves in, the people on both sides of the street will know that there are new residents here. I reckon that there will be people coming to find out later." What's so difficult about that? In a moment, Len Hua and I will bring Master and the others over. You and Du Fan can stay at the mansion and set up a boundary around it. Luo Yu smiled and said. He looked at Len Hua and asked, "How long until we arrive?" "It should be up ahead." As Len Hua spoke, he glanced at the room numbers in front of the door. They walked forward for a while until their gazes landed on the door with 2 stone lions. "It can't be here, right?" Luo Yu asked as he touched the 2 stone lions. He frowned and said, "These 2 stone lions are really crude." Len Hua checked the room number and nodded. "This is the place. It's not bad. The door is locked. Is there a key?" Du Fan looked at it and used his fan to lift the lock. It's actually a black iron lock. Len Hua took out the box containing the title deed, took out the key from under the title deed, and walked forward to open the door. After pushing the door open and entering, even though he had seen many good places, his eyes couldn't help but light up. It doesn't look very eye-catching from the outside, but there's something else inside. Even the house we used to live in didn't seem to be as big and exquisite as this. TSK, I really don't know how much Master spent to buy this house." Luo Yu rubbed his chin and said. After entering, he looked around and then walked around the backyard. Seeing the countless courtyards, he couldn't help but be speechless. Isn't this place too big? Can the few of us live here? Has Master Feng arrived? Chapter 29-23. They saw a middle-aged man standing outside the door with an old man. The old man was peering inside but didn't dare to enter. The middle-aged man stood with his hands clasped behind his back, looking nervous. At a glance, they could tell that the old man was the servant and the middle-aged man was the master. However, they didn't know them. How did they know to come here to find young Master Feng? Could it be that he knew Master? Thus, Du Fan and the others stepped forward. When they arrived at the entrance, they signaled Len Hua with the corners of their eyes and stood to the side. Len Hua stepped forward and asked gently, "May I know who you're looking for?" The old man looked at the gentle young man in front of him and was slightly startled. He turned to look at his master and asked, "Little brother, has young Master Feng arrived?" "We're from the city's Shao family. This is our family head. We were originally ordered by our family's ancestor to find this residence for young Master Feng. Now that we heard that the residence's door was open, we wanted to pay a visit." Hearing this, Len Hua smiled warmly. "I see." He looked at the two and said, "My master hasn't arrived yet. He only ordered us to take a look at the residence first." "Oh, so young Master Feng hasn't arrived yet?" the old man said, then asked with a smile, "May I know your name?" Len Hua had a gentle smile on his face. It was like a spring breeze. His entire aura was gentle and refined. No one dared to look down on him. He looked at the old man and said, "My surname is Leng. I'm the residence's steward." Hearing this, the old man was slightly surprised. He hurriedly cupped his hands and bowed. "So young Master Leng is the steward. My apologies. To be able to become a steward at such a young age, he must be extraordinary." "Steward Leng, when will young Master Feng arrive?" the middle-aged man asked. "That's hard to say. It depends on Master's arrangements," Len Hua said gently. Hearing this, the middle-aged man said, "Since that's the case, we'll head back first. Here are some humble gifts, I hope Steward Leng can accept them on my behalf." As he gestured, the steward took out a gift from his cosmos sack and handed it over. Len Hua smiled. "Okay, I'll tell Master that the Shao family's head sent them." Hearing this, the middle-aged man smiled. He cupped his hands and bowed before leaving with the old man. The door closed and they walked in. Du Fan said, "So it was the Shao family who found the house. But who is their ancestor? Just go back and tell Master about it. Let's split up according to what we said earlier." Len Hua looked at them and said, "Du Fan and Gu Mo, stay behind. First, set up a simple array around the area. We'll go find Master and bring them over." "All right." The few of them responded and split up to carry out their tasks. On the other side, the middle-aged man got into the carriage. The old man sat outside and signaled the coachman to go back. He asked, "Family head, what is the background of that young Master Feng? Why would our ancestor ask us to find such a house for him?" The disciple sent by our ancestor didn't explain in detail. "I've already sent people to find out. If nothing unexpected happens, we'll know soon." The middle-aged man leaned back and said, "But one thing is certain. This young Master Feng is not simple. Look at those 4 people. Their strength isn't outstanding, but they're not weak either. Moreover, each of them has an extraordinary bearing. They're comparable to the young masters of large families. This young Master Feng is probably even more outstanding." Chapter 29-24. "I'm afraid we won't be able to see them even if we come." The middle-aged man sighed softly. "Since we can't see them today, we'll have to wait and see if there's a chance in the future." The carriage left the alley. Not long after, Len Hua and Luo Yu walked out of the alley, preparing to bring Fengjiu and the others back to the residence. At this time, Xianyuan Mose and Fengjiu were drinking tea in the tea house, chatting as they looked at the bustling streets outside. Fengjiu said, "Later, get someone to build a carriage that can be pulled by the purple gold spirit deer. It's best if it's bigger and more complete. Leave it to Hui Lang." Xianyuan Mose said, glancing at Hui Lang. Hui Lang heard their words and hurried forward. "Yes, Master and Ghost Doctor, don't worry. Just leave it to me. After you've settled down, you should all familiarize yourselves with Sifang City. In the future, we'll be living and cultivating here. Feng Jiu took a sip of tea and said, after a while, you can also arrange for us to go out and train to improve our fighting abilities. Yes. The others responded, watching the two chatting there. Len Hua carried Hao, and looked at the streets outside. Not long after, they saw Len Hua and Luo Yu walking over. Master, Len Hua is back. Feng Jiu and Xianyuan Mose looked down and saw Len Hua walking over quickly. They thought that it hadn't been long since they went to scout. It seemed that the residence wasn't very far from here, so it should be easy to walk around. Not long after, Len Hua came up to the second floor. Master, Yama God. Len Hua bowed respectfully and said, Master, I've found the residence. It's more luxurious and exquisite than the one we used to live in. Moreover, the residence is located in a prime location in the city. It's quieter there, and there aren't many people walking around. As Len Hua spoke, he paused for a moment before continuing. According to what we know, it can be said that most of the forces in the city live in that area. Moreover, just now, the Tan family's patriarch personally came to deliver some gifts, but he left without seeing Master. According to them, they helped us find the house, and they take orders from their old ancestor. Feng Jiu was startled. Ancestor? Her expression was strange as she looked at Xianyuan Mose. Do you think the ancestor they're talking about is CK? It should be him. Didn't he say it before? There are people from his family in Sifang City. Xianyuan Mose said unhurriedly. That's true. CK is several hundred years old, but he always looks like a middle-aged man. That's why I always thought he was 40 or 50 years old. She chuckled and shook her head. We've really gained 2 senior disciples out of nowhere. They've really saved us a lot of trouble. Since we've found the residence, let's go back and take a look. When the time comes, we'll see if the manor needs anything else. Xianyuan Mose said. Master, Lord Yan, because there's still some distance to go, I asked Luo Yu to buy a carriage on the way here. You can sit for a while, he should be here soon. Len Hua said as he looked down at the street. Chapter 29-25. Feng Jiu smiled. That's good too. Prepare an ordinary carriage. I'll also have Hui Lang order a sturdier one for flying in the future. Flying? Len Hua was startled and asked, Master wants to use a flying beast to pull the carriage? They didn't seem to have any flying beasts to pull the carriage. Yes, I have 2 purple gold spirit deer. I'm going to use them to pull the carriage. The purple gold spirit deer can gallop in the air. It's extremely fast and powerful. It's perfect. Feng Jiu smiled. Thinking of the 2 purple gold spirit deer in the space, his smile deepened. Master, Luo Yu is here. Len Hua looked at the carriage parked below and said to Feng Jiu. Then let's go. Feng Jiu looked at Xianyuan Mose. Xianyuan Mose stood up and reached out to take her hand. Then he led her downstairs. Master, Yama God. Luo Yu called out. He got off the carriage and lifted the curtain to let them in. The two got on the carriage and took Hao, from Ling Shuang's hands. Then they went to the house. Luo Yu drove the carriage. Ling Shuang and Bai Qingqing sat on the left and right sides. Len Hua and Hui Lang followed on the left and right sides of the carriage. The group of people were dressed in extraordinary clothes and had outstanding appearances. Even if they were in a hurry, they still attracted a lot of attention. As they walked towards the mansion, they saw many luxurious mansions on both sides of the alley. Furthermore, there were very few other people in the alley. This place can be said to be isolated from the rest of the city. It belongs to the wealthy district of the city. It's really quiet and secluded. Feng Jiu said and lowered the curtain. CK ordered people to find a house. It shouldn't be bad. As Xianyuan Mose spoke, He teased Hao in his arms and said, "What family do you think Hao is from?" Hearing this, Fengjiu looked at Hao who was blinking and listening to them in his arms. He smiled and said, "Definitely not ordinary." The two of them chatted in the carriage and felt that the journey was not far. When the carriage stopped, they knew that they had arrived at the entrance of the residence. "Master, we're here," Luo Yu said as he lifted the curtain. Leng Shuang stepped forward and took the child from Xianyuan Mo's arms. The two alighted from the carriage and sized up the mansion before them. Xianyuan Mo's gaze landed on the two stone lions in front of the door. He said, "These two stone lions, it would be better if they were alive." Hearing this, Fengjiu couldn't help but laugh. "Change two dire beasts here. Only you can think of something like that." Luo Yu laughed loudly. "Yama Lord, I also think that these stone lions are very tacky. If we could really have two live lions here, that would be impressive. When we have time, we can go to the city and bring back two lions to guard the gate. That would be excellent." Xianyuan Mo looked at Fengjiu and said. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. "Sure. Let's go to the city tomorrow to take a look." Xianyuan Mo's lips curved into a smile. Then, he held her hand and led her inside. Once inside, Hui Lang and the others couldn't help but praise, "This mansion is really big and luxurious. Go and see for yourselves. Find a place to stay." Fengjiu gestured for them to choose their own courtyard. "Thank you, Master." "Thank you, Ghost Doctor." They responded and looked at each other with smiles. Then, they walked inside separately. "You two go too," she said to Leng Shuang and Bai Qingcheng. Chapter 29-26. "Master, we just went to the back of the mountain and found that the back of the mountain is also very big, so we set up some arrays in the back of the mountain. As for the surroundings of the residence, we haven't had time to set them up yet," Du Fan said. I'll go take a look later. There's no hurry." As she spoke, she slowly walked around the residence with Xianyuan Mo. After familiarizing themselves with the place, the two of them came to the main courtyard. When they opened the door, they saw that the inside was also very clean, without a speck of dust. She couldn't help but smile and say, "It seems that before we moved in, there were people who cleaned up. But the residence is so big, just the few of us are still not enough. We have to buy some more servants. Take it slow. We're not only staying here for a day or two. We have plenty of time." As Xianyuan Mo spoke, he glanced at the courtyard and said, "I'll go to the back of the mountain to take a look and set up the array while I'm at it. You should rest first." "No need, I'll go with you." As Fengjiu spoke, he held his hand and went to the back of the mountain together. At the same time, he instructed Du Fan to help set up a barrier outside the residence. He was busy all the way until evening. Bai Qingcheng began to arrange dinner for everyone, while Guemo was in charge of boiling water for everyone to bathe. Although they had just moved into the new residence today, they were all exhausted from the work. The next morning, Fengjiu, who had changed into women's clothing, accompanied Xianyuan Mo out. Other than Guemo who drove the carriage and Ning Yi who followed in the dark like a shadow, only Len Hua and Wei Feng were by their side. The others stayed in the residence. Only Hui Lang went out to arrange for the carriage. "Master, the slave market is in front. Our carriage can't go in, so we can only stop outside." Len Hua's voice rang out from outside the carriage window. In the carriage, Fengjiu heard this and said, "Then let's stop here." The carriage stopped. Fengjiu looked at Xianyuan Mo and asked, "Why don't you wait for me in the carriage? I'll come out after I pick someone." "That works too." As Xianyuan Mo spoke, she didn't get off the carriage. Instead, she let Len Hua and Wei Feng go in with her. He and Guemo stayed in the carriage to wait for them to come out. As soon as the beautiful Fengjiu in red entered the slave market, she attracted the attention of the people inside. In front of an iron cage with a slave, a man in his 30s was talking to a middle-aged man next to him with his hands behind his back. When he caught a glimpse of Fengjiu coming in from the corner of his eyes, a look of surprise flashed across his eyes. He turned around and sized up Fengjiu. Then, he walked forward and asked, "Miss, do you want to choose a slave?" Fengjiu glanced at him. "That's right. Hee, my surname is Tan, and I'm the owner of this place." "What kind of slave does Miss want?" "I can do it for you," the man said with a smile. His tone was filled with confidence. "Female slaves between the ages of 14 and 20. It's best if they have some cultivation." As Fengjiu spoke, her clear eyes indifferently looked around and sized up the slaves in the iron cages. "Miss, you've come at the right time. A batch just arrived yesterday. I'll bring Miss over to take a look," he said with a deep smile and made an inviting gesture. Fengjiu nodded slightly and followed him forward. When they arrived at a wider area, he waved his hand and someone brought out 50 young girls chained up. Chapter 29-27. Fengjiu's gaze swept over the 50 female slaves. After asking a few questions as usual, she picked out a few people and asked them again. About half an hour later, she picked out 12 people from the 50. 12 then. She looked towards Leng Hua, "Pay according to 100 gold coins for one. Remember to take the contracts." "Yes." Leng Hua responded. He looked towards the steward and had him take him to pay the bill. When the steward heard this, he glanced at his master. When he saw him wave his hand, he took Leng Hua and left. "Miss doesn't want to owe this Tan a favor?" The man laughed in a low voice. He looked at her and asked, "After talking for so long, how should I address you?" "I've already bought this person. There's nothing else I want at the moment. Goodbye, young Master Tan," Fengjiu said and nodded slightly. She didn't look at him and turned to leave. Seeing this, the man smiled and didn't stop her. He only looked at her departing figure for a long time before ordering, "Go, investigate her origins." "Yes." There was clearly no one around, but someone responded. Fengjiu returned to the carriage and said to Xianyuan Mose, "I bought 12. 4 in the kitchen and 8 in the courtyard. I think it should be enough. And, the people you pick usually don't go wrong." Xianyuan Mose pulled her to sit down and poured a cup of tea for her on the small table in the carriage. "Let's go and see what level the elixirs in this city are," Fengjiu said. She took a sip of tea and put it down. Then, she picked up a piece of cake and ate it. "Okay," Xianyuan Mose responded. The two sat in the carriage for a while before they heard Leng Hua's voice. "Master, I've brought the people and obtained the contracts. Should we bring them back first? Have Wei Feng bring them back to the residence. Tell Qingcheng to prepare uniform-made outfits for them. Let Leng Shuang instruct them before making arrangements." Fengjiu instructed from inside the carriage. "Yes." Wei Feng brought the 12 young women back first, whereas, Fengjiu and the others left the slave market right after that and headed towards other places. On the street, there seemed to be a fight. There were many people in front of the carriage, and the carriage couldn't pass. So, Luoyu stopped the carriage on the side and said to the 2 people in the carriage, "Master, Yama Lord, there seems to be a fight in front. The carriage can't pass. Can't we take a detour?" Xianyuan Mose asked. "The biggest pill shop in the city is right in front of this street, and this is the only way." Luoyu, who had already scouted the area, said. "If that's the case, then let's wait," Xianyuan Mose said and wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he drank tea and ate pastries with Fengjiu in the carriage. When they smelled the fragrance coming from outside, Fengjiu lifted the curtain and looked outside. Then, he said to Leng Hua, "I seem to smell the fragrance of chestnuts. See where they're sold and buy some back." "Okay." Leng Hua responded and looked around. He saw an old man selling chestnuts in the corner and walked over to buy some. He sent it to Fengjiu in the carriage. Chapter 29-28. Luo Yu and Leng Hua's expressions changed when they saw the sword qi slashing towards them. They immediately drew their swords and sent out 2 sword qis, cutting the sword qi in half. Swish swish. 2 streams of air shot out and struck the incoming sword qi. However, at the same time that the sword qi was neutralized, a small and sharp stream of air still sliced through their carriage, leaving a mark on it. Luo Yu and Leng Hua stared coldly at the people in front of them as they watched the tiny stream of qi pass through the carriage and leave a mark. At this moment, Fengjiu lifted the curtain of the carriage. Xianyuan Mose's expression darkened slightly as he stared ahead with a stern look in his eyes. Although they were separated by the curtain of the carriage, they still knew that if Luo Yu and Leng Hui had not stepped in to neutralize the incoming sword aura, the sword aura would have slashed towards their carriage. Fengjiu poked his head out after lifting the curtain and touched the mark on the carriage. He said, as expected, "It's still a little weak. If it was custom-made, it wouldn't have been cut so easily." As he spoke, he looked ahead and saw 8 guards in tight robes attacking 4 independent cultivators. The 8 guards were all at the Celestial Sage realm. The 4 independent cultivators consisted of 3 men and 1 woman. 2 of the men were around 25 years old, the other looked to be 40 or 50 years old, and the woman looked to be only 17 or 18 years old. However, she was also very beautiful and outstanding. At the side, a man in golden robes who was being protected by 2 other middle-aged men stared at the woman. The desire in his eyes could be seen at a glance. As the fight between the 2 sides gradually approached the carriage, the well-dressed man's gaze also fell on her. As expected, she saw a flash of surprise in the well-dressed man's eyes. He even wanted to take a step forward to approach her, but he was blocked by the 2 middle-aged men. Fengjiu frowned slightly when he saw this. He lowered the curtain and was about to let Luo Yu drive the carriage away when he felt the carriage shake. Luo Yu and Leng Hua's shouts came from outside. "Come down!" The sound of swords clashing echoed throughout the carriage. Coupled with the shaking of the carriage, the tea on the small table spilled all over the table. Xianyuan Mose frowned. He gathered spirit power in his palm and slammed it down. Bang! Ah! Ah! With a loud bang, the surrounding crowd saw the people who had jumped onto the carriage to fight being shaken to the ground. One by one, they fell to the ground and spat out blood. Among them, the rogue cultivator who had fallen was quickly helped up by the other 3, and they took the opportunity to quickly escape. On the other hand, the guards lying on the ground were not so lucky. None of them could even stand up. They could only feel the unbearable pain in their internal organs. When they opened their mouths, they spat out another mouthful of blood. When the man in luxurious clothes saw this, he couldn't help but be shocked. Even the faces of the 2 middle-aged men who were protecting him changed slightly. They didn't even bother to chase after the people who escaped. Instead, they helped each other up and retreated to the side. Only the 2 middle-aged men went forward. "We were careless and offended you, sir. We are truly sorry. Please forgive us." The 2 middle-aged men cupped their hands and apologized to the carriage. Chapter 29-29. Even though they had seen many handsome men and women, none of them could compare to these 2. Moreover, from the aura of the black-robed man, they could tell that he was no ordinary person. Fengjiu stood by Xianyuan Mose's side and said nothing. Xianyuan Mose's deep gaze swept over them and landed on the 2 middle-aged men. He said in a deep voice, "A new carriage, and one forged from black gold." Hearing this, the 2 middle-aged men trembled and suddenly returned to their senses. They glanced at the sword qi mark on the carriage and hurriedly said, "Sir, don't worry. When we return to the residence, we will definitely report to the Patriarch and compensate Sir with a carriage made from black gold as an apology." However, I wonder where the carriage will be sent once it's completed. The surrounding people looked at the two middle-aged men in surprise. Even the man in luxurious clothes was rather stunned. He did not think that they would not dare to refute the other party's request and would directly offer compensation. It was completely different from the arrogance they had shown when they attacked the rogue cultivators earlier. Xianyuan Mose walked forward with Fengjiu in his arms. He did not answer the man's question. Behind them, Leng Hua left behind an address for them to send the carriage to the residence. When the two middle-aged men heard that they lived in such a prestigious residence, they did not dare to be careless. They quickly brought the man in luxurious clothes back. On the way back, the man in luxurious clothes was dissatisfied. He said, "Why did you so easily agree to compensate him with a carriage made from black gold? That's not cheap. Moreover, this makes our Lu family seem very weak. We're actually afraid of a mere few people. In my opinion, we should use this opportunity to teach them a lesson and then steal that beauty." "Sir, you can't say that again." The two middle-aged men were shocked. They could not help but look around before saying, "Sir, that black-robed man's strength is extraordinary. He's definitely not an ordinary person. Even we are intimidated by his aura. It's not good to have bad relations with someone like that. But he's just a lecher. He always brings a woman with him when he goes out. It's clear that he's not a powerful person." The man in luxurious clothes said disapprovingly. However, he could not forget the beautiful woman in red that he had seen once. That woman is truly beautiful. She's like a fairy. All the so-called beauties I've seen in the past could not compare to her in the slightest. It's truly a waste for such a beauty to follow that kind of man. Hearing this, the two men could not help but bitterly smile. This young master really did not use his brain. It said that such a person was definitely not an ordinary person. He actually still could not forget that beautiful woman in red. He was truly lustful. After returning to the residence, the two of them first went to report the matter to their patriarch. After Patriarch Lu heard their report, he pondered for a moment before saying, "To be able to live in such a place, it can be seen that they are not ordinary people. Since that is the case, then order someone to build a carriage as compensation." "Yes," the man said, the two men in luxurious clothes. After watching them leave, Patriarch Lu clasped his hands behind his back and pondered. Then, he ordered, "Go. Find out where they came from." "Yes." The shadow guard who was hiding in the dark heard the order and rushed out. Chapter 29:30. Seeing that the two of them were dressed luxuriously, the shopkeeper thought that they should have bought a lot of things. Who would have thought that they would just walk around and leave? They didn't buy anything. The shopkeeper was stunned for a long time. Only after a long time did he regain his senses. He shook his head, "I really couldn't tell. They're dressed like that, but they're actually so stingy." The two of them walked slowly along the street. Leng Hua followed behind them, while Luo Yu drove the carriage at a leisurely pace behind them. "I didn't think that the pills in this place would be so ordinary. No wonder CK and the others were so ecstatic when they received my pills." Fengjiu chuckled softly. Seeing that there were peanut candies on the corner of the street, he pulled Xianyuan Mose over. "Let's go try some peanut candies," Fengjiu said. He pulled him over to the stall and tried a small piece. When Xianyuan Mose saw this, he silently took out a gold coin. "I'll buy all of these." He tossed a gold coin over. When the shopkeeper saw that it was a gold coin, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. He hurriedly helped them pack up the peanut candies. Leng Hua, who was behind them, stepped forward and put the candies into his qiankuan bag. He only left a small bag for them to eat. The few of them strolled along the street. When they arrived at a place where many people were rushing in one direction, they couldn't help but feel curious. "Leng Hua, go ask what's going on up ahead." "Yes." Leng Hua responded. He went forward to ask, and not long after, he returned. Master, there's a bestial battle arena up ahead, so many people are going there to watch. When she heard that it was a bestial battle arena, she wasn't very interested. Unexpectedly, a shopkeeper beside her said, "Young masters and young misses, you're not from around here, right? No wonder you don't know about this bestial battle arena. It's different from normal bestial battle arenas." Fengjiu looked at him and asked with a smile, "How is it different?" "Hee, young miss, this is the Sky Colosseum. Don't be fooled by the fact that many people are rushing over to watch the show. In fact, they can't even enter. Who in Four Corner City doesn't know that the Sky Colosseum can only be entered by rich and powerful cultivators? Ordinary people like us can't even afford to pay the entrance fee. However, the inside is indeed extraordinary. It is divided into the underground floor and the Sky City. Many foreigners who come to Four Corner City will come to the Sky Colosseum." Hearing the peddler's words, Fengjiu smiled and said, "Thank you." Then, he walked forward with Xianyuan Mose. Leng Hua went forward to inquire about the price and came back, saying, "Master, it's 100 gold coins per person to enter. Each person can bring one person in." "Since that's the case, let's go take a look," Xianyuan Mose said. He had Luo Yu stop the carriage at the side and led them in. Just as the peddler said, the people outside were only watching from the outside. However, they couldn't see what they wanted to see. As for those who wanted to enter, they had to pass through the first floor of the bestial battle arena to the back. "May I know if the two esteemed guests would like to go up or down?" the attendant asked respectfully. "What's the difference?" Xianyuan Mose asked. Chapter 29-31. 2,000 gold coins. When Leng Hua and Luo Yu heard this, they couldn't help but be speechless. This was a sky-high price. An ordinary family wouldn't be able to spend 2,000 gold coins in their lifetime. But here, it cost 2,000 gold coins a day. They couldn't help but look at their two masters. This money was really expensive. When Fengjiu heard that it was 2,000 gold coins, he smiled. This place was really not cheap. He just didn't know if it was worth the price. Leng Hua. Xianyuan Mose glanced at him. Yes. Leng Hua stepped forward and followed the attendant. After paying the fee, he received a few white jade tokens and a number with the number 9. "Two distinguished guests, please come this way," the attendant said respectfully. The attendant said respectfully. He led the way for them. When they arrived at a teleportation formation, he had them crush their white jade tablets and they flew up at the speed of light. In the blink of an eye, they stood firm as if they were above the clouds. Xianyuan Mose hugged Fengjiu and walked to the edge to take a look. A strange look flashed across his eyes. Looking down, it was a vast expanse of whiteness. Clouds and mist swirled below, and they seemed to be in the clouds. They used their divine senses to investigate and saw that this place was set up with a barrier. It was like a world floating in the air. However, the only difference was that there was nothing else in this place other than a 3-story, circular, luxurious place. Before he entered, he could already see the dazzling golden outer wall shining with a dazzling light. There was also dense spiritual energy in the surroundings, and there was a faint sound of music. The place was filled with clouds and mist, and it was like a fairyland. They were led in by the attendant. They walked through a small path to their room number 9. The attendant bowed respectfully and said, "Two distinguished guests, in addition to watching the beast fights, you can also gamble. You can place your bets with the number 9 tokens in your hands. In this place, other guests can't come here to disturb you or see you. Similarly, you can't see other guests." As he said that, the attendant paused and asked, "Two distinguished guests, do you need 2 beautiful women to serve you?" Xianyuan Mose was about to say no, but Fengjiu said with a smile, "Call them in." Hearing this, he bowed and left. Not long after, 2 beautiful women came in from outside. They looked at the people in the room, and their eyes fell on Xianyuan and Fengjiu. "Greetings, young master, young Mississippi," the two of them stepped forward and bowed. As they saw the woman in red beside the black-robed man, they lowered their heads. "What can the two of you do?" Fengjiu asked, glancing at the two beautiful women. "Young miss, I know the 5 arts. I can play the zither and make tea for you and young Mississippi. I know the art of relaxing tendons and reviving bones. I can help young miss get rid of your fatigue." The woman was a tactful person. Seeing that the black-robed man didn't even look at them, she respectfully replied to Fengjiu. Hearing their words, Fengjiu smiled and said, "There is music here. Forget about playing the zither, make tea for us." Chapter 29-32. The other woman stood behind Fengjiu and massaged her shoulders. Not long after, 2 more women knocked on the door and came in. They brought snacks and wine and then knelt beside the two of them to serve them. Xianyuan glanced at them and said in a low voice, "You two can leave. Don't come in without orders." "Yes." The 2 women who came in carrying things responded respectfully, and then left. "Is the battle in the middle?" Fengjiu asked. "Yes. If Miss is interested, we can bet." The woman who was massaging Fengjiu's shoulders said softly, "The green side won the last round. The red side will fight the undefeated double-edged swordsman." Hearing this, Fengjiu was slightly surprised. This is a battle between beasts and humans? She thought it would be a battle between beasts, but hearing this, it was clearly a battle between beasts and humans. It's a battle between beasts and humans. The green side is a beast, and the red side is a cultivator. The woman continued, "Both sides will enter the cage. Only when one side dies will the victor be decided. It's a battle between beasts. This battle is cruel." Fengjiu sighed softly. She looked down and listened to the faint sounds coming from the surroundings. No one knew what she was thinking. Not long after, another woman came in with 2 cups of tea. "Young master, miss, please have some tea." Xianyuan and Fengjiu took the cups. Smelling the tea's fragrance, Fengjiu smiled. It seems that the 2,000 gold coins were well spent. "This is spiritual tea." Xianyuan took a sip and said, "This spiritual tea is sweet and has a sweet aftertaste. When it enters the stomach, the spiritual energy flows. It's not bad. The water used to make this tea is not ordinary water, right?" Fengjiu looked at the woman. "Miss, this tea is made from the snow water of Tianling Mountain. The tea leaves are alpine spirit tea. In the entire 4 square city, only the city in the sky can drink this spirit mountain snow tea. Make a cup for the 2 of them." Fengjiu gestured for her to make a cup for Len Hua and Luo Yu. Hearing this, a trace of surprise flashed through the woman's eyes, but she still respectfully replied, "Yes. Master, is this tea really that good? I just tasted the wine. It's also spiritual wine and has a very rich taste. Master, do you want to drink a cup?" Luo Yu asked with a clear smile. Fengjiu smiled and said, "No, you two can drink. Just don't get drunk." "Thank you, master." The 2 of them said as they sat down and drank their wine, watching the dance in front of them. It was only after the graceful dancers had left that the area was cleared that a black iron cage appeared. This black iron cage was from the 1st floor to the 3rd floor, and it was wide enough to cover the entire space in the middle. A man wearing a tight-fitting suit appeared first. He held 2 swords in his hands and his gray hair was tied up. There were 2 intersecting scars on his face and his eyes were cold and bloodthirsty. With just a glance, Fengjiu could sense the strong smell of blood on this person. Presumably, his hands were stained with the blood of many people. After a short while, a double-headed lion seemed to have smelled blood as it grabbed the iron cage and roared furiously at one side of the iron cage. "Young master, miss, if you want to bet, you can place your bets now." The woman said softly. Massage your legs. Fengjiu said as he drank his tea and looked at the scene below. He also looked at the surrounding guests who stood up and looked down. Chapter 29:33. Even though they couldn't see it clearly, it was faintly discernible and even more alluring, especially that dazzling red color. Even the crystal curtain couldn't hide it. Perhaps sensing the other party's gaze, Xianyuan Mo's frowned and looked at the other party with some displeasure. With Fengjiu's appearance, it was very easy for people to stare at her outside, especially when she was dressed as a woman. Fengjiu's gaze fell on the warbeast cage below. Looking at the man and beast inside, she turned to Xianyuan Mo's. Do you think the beast will win? Or that cultivator? That two-headed lion will win. Xianyuan Mo's looked at her and asked, do you want to bet a little? Fengjiu pursed her lips and smiled, since you said so, then let's bet a little. She smiled at the woman who was massaging her feet and asked, what's the lowest bet? The lowest bet is 500 gold coins. You just have to take the number plate and walk to the front and shout out the amount of gold coins you want to bet, the woman said softly. Then let's bet 4,000 gold coins. We spent 4,000 gold coins to come here. She chuckled and had Leng Hua raise the number plate to place his bet. Hearing this, Leng Hua took the number 9 plate and walked forward, shouting out the words bet on the green side to win and bet 4,000 gold coins. Not long after, his words echoed in the air of the building. Guest number 9 is betting on the green side to win 4,000 gold coins. Hearing this, many people looked towards room number 9. However, they couldn't see the people inside clearly. They could only see a few indistinct figures inside. Among them, there was a red figure who couldn't hide her beauty even though she was separated by a beaded curtain. Guest number 13 is betting on the red side to win 2,000 gold coins. Guest number 5 is betting on the green side to win 1,500 gold coins. Guest number 1 is betting on the red side to win 3,000 gold coins. Guest number 17 has placed a bet of 1,000 gold coins on the red team. Not long after, the entire building was filled with bets placed by the rooms. Most of them were betting on the red team's double-edged swordsman to win. After all, this person had never lost since the beginning of the beast battle. In everyone's opinion, he would definitely win. Therefore, naturally, no one thought that the green team would win this round. Therefore, someone laughed and said, guest in room 9, your bet has gone down the drain. 4,000 gold coins have been wasted. Ha, the person in room number 9 is a lady, right? You look like a woman in red. Do you want to come out and show your face? Hearing the laughter around them, Fengjiu turned to look at Xianyuan Mo's. Seeing his dark face and a hint of displeasure, he said, do you think we should raise the stakes? She played with her hair and didn't wait for Xianyuan Mo's to speak. She smiled and said, since we're going to play, let's make it more exciting. I'll add another 6,000 gold coins. Hearing this, the woman who was pressing down on Fengjiu's feet was stunned. She raised her head and stared blankly at her. 10,000 gold coins. Did this lady know how much 10,000 gold coins were? Moreover, didn't she come with this man? She was wasting money like this. Didn't this man care? Thinking of this, she could not help but look at the dark-faced man. Seeing the faintly displeased expression on his face and his slightly furrowed brows, she could not help but think to herself, look, no matter how much he dotes on this red-clothed woman, this man still does not like her style of recklessly wasting money. Chapter 29:34. Leng Hua, raise the stakes. Xianyuan Mo's said in a deep voice. Yes. Leng Hua replied and stepped forward to raise the stakes. He raised the stakes from 4,000 gold coins to 6,000 gold coins, bringing the total to 10,000 gold coins. Guest number 9, raise the stakes. The voice reverberated. When it reached everyone's ears, everyone was stunned. They thought that the other party should be a rich second generation. How could he raise the stakes after being provoked like that? It seemed that he was a brainless person. However, they did not know that Xianyuanmos and Fengjiu had a card up their sleeves. After all, from their perspective, they could naturally see that the cultivator was injured. If he fought with a ferocious two-headed lion while injured, he would definitely die. Thus, after the gong sounded, the black iron door opened. The two-headed lion charged out with a low roar and fiercely pounced on the cultivator. The two heads roared at the same time, and the powerful pressure caused the air to tremble slightly. The two swords in the cultivator's hands moved at the same time, and a sharp sword energy shot out, but the two-headed lion dodged it. It pounced forward, and its sharp claws drew a few sharp air blades in the air. The sharp claws slashed across the cultivator's arm, and immediately tore off his sleeve along with his flesh. A shrill scream followed. However, he did not have time to check his wound. He suddenly turned around and quickly distanced himself from the two-headed lion. Only then did he look down at his wound. He saw that there were several deep scratches on his arm. His sleeve and flesh had been torn off, and his flesh was badly mangled and dripping with blood. The thick smell of blood spread in the black iron cage, causing the two-headed lion to become even more excited and ferocious. Roar! The roars from the two heads converged into one. If one did not listen carefully, one would not be able to tell that it came from the two beasts. When they saw that a piece of the cultivator's flesh had been torn off, the people in the room could not sit still. Why did he slow down? He didn't dodge that attack. Someone lifted the curtain and stood at the railing to look down. His eyes widened as he looked at the scene below. Although 2,000 to 3,000 gold coins was not a big deal to them, losing money was a small matter, but losing face was a big matter. In room 9, Fengjiu and Xianyuanmos were calmly drinking tea as they watched the scene below. It wasn't that they were cold-blooded and wanted to gamble with a cultivator's life. Instead, with their discerning eyes, they could tell that the cultivator wasn't a kind person. That person's gaze was gloomy and cold. The ferocious aura in his eyes was extremely heavy, and the stench of blood on his body was also extremely thick. That was the aura of someone who had been stained with blood and slaughter all year round. Since they were going to fight with the ferocious beast, they naturally chose the strongest to bet on. Sure enough, not long after, a series of blood-curdling screams came out. After being heavily injured by the fierce beast, the cultivator's speed dropped significantly, and his body was covered in blood. Seeing that the outcome of the battle was about to be decided, the people in the other rooms couldn't help but look towards room number 9 with strange gazes. How did the person in room number 9 know that the two-headed lion won this round? After all, ever since the double-edged swordsman had participated in the beast fights, he had not lost a total of more than 20 battles. Who would have thought that he would lose today? That person has an internal injury that hasn't healed yet. After a long battle, he will definitely lose, Fengjiu said calmly. At this moment, there was a knock on the door. Leng Hua walked forward to open the door. Seeing that it was the attendant, he let him in. The attendant was carrying a tray. When he came to Fengjiu and Xianyuanmos' side, he said respectfully, "Honorable guests, guest from room 5 has gifted you two a bottle of fine wine and also ordered a dance for you two. Please enjoy." Chapter 29:36. The dancers of the city in the sky are extremely beautiful. Their faces are covered by a veil, which makes them look even more mysterious. Their beautiful eyes are moving and charming. Look at their figures. They are as graceful as willows swaying gently, but also like water snakes twisting. They are truly enchanting. A man walked out of the crystal curtain and stood by the railing, looking at the beauty in white who was leading the dance. When he saw the snow-white skin on her chest, he couldn't take his eyes off her. In the clouds, the beauty's long sleeves danced. The ribbons wrapped around her snow-white arms danced with their movements. From time to time, she would lightly jump up with the tip of her foot, and her figure would lightly spin and land on the ground. Her skirt would flutter, mesmerizing the eyes, the exclamations outside were endless, and the praises were even louder. Some people were even asking how much it would cost to redeem this dancer. In room 9, Fengjiu looked at the moving dance and listened to the praises coming into her ears. She smiled and looked at Xianyuan Mose sitting beside her. She asked with a smile, "Is it beautiful?" The corners of Len Hua and Luo Yu's lips curled up slightly. The two of them quietly retreated to the side as they watched the moving dance. It had to be said that because of their cultivation, these dancers were even more graceful when they danced. In addition to the scene in the clouds and their beautiful faces, they really did feel like fairies in the clouds. Xianyuan Mose looked at the dancing dancers. After looking at them seriously for a while, he turned to look at Fengjiu and said, "Although their dancing is moving, they are still not half as good as Aju." The dances of these women were indeed very good, but he knew that if his Aju danced, she would be even more devastatingly beautiful. She would be a national beauty. Hearing this, Fengjiu pursed her lips and smiled. These people are indeed not bad. Unexpectedly, they can also be praised by you. Hearing this, Xianyuan Mose looked at her. Aju doesn't like me praising their dancing? Then I won't praise them. Since he praised me, he should be rewarded. Fengjiu said with a smile. He turned to Len Hua and said, "Tip each of them 100 gold coins. Tip the lead dancer 200 gold coins." This was all money that he had won. It was especially comfortable to use this money to tip people. Yes. Len Hua responded and went outside to inform the dancers. When the dance was over and the dancers were about to leave, they heard a voice in the air and stopped. "Guest number 9, please reward the dancers with 100 gold coins each. Reward Water Xian, the lead dancer, with 200 gold coins." Hearing this, the others also tipped the dancers with gold coins, especially the leading dancer. Thus, after the dance, the dancers received a lot of silver coins. Thank you for your generosity. Chapter 29:37. Esteemed guests, you are all dragons and phoenixes amongst men. Xian really doesn't dare to. Before she could finish her sentence, she was rudely interrupted by an impatient voice. "What are you blabbering on about? We asked you to take off your veil, so take it off. We want to see your face. That's your honor. You're just a mere dancer. What are you pretending to be so reserved for? Stop putting on airs." Hearing these words, Shui Xianxian's delicate body trembled. Her beautiful eyes filled with tears as she looked up. Then, she lifted her hand and took off her veil with trembling hands. "Since esteemed guests want to see my face, I'll take off my veil." When the veil was taken off, a pure and beautiful face appeared in front of everyone. This made the eyes of the men who were used to seeing beautiful women light up. The beauty stood there quietly with tears in her eyes. She looked so pitiful that it made them feel a special feeling in their hearts. In an instant, many of them were tempted. This dancer's body was slender and her waist was like water. Her face was pure and beautiful. She looked gentle and pleasant. It was not impossible for her to become a concubine. Fengjiu looked at the woman's face that was revealed after she took off her veil and smiled. "This is great. There's only one beauty. I wonder who will get her." When those people were shouting for Shui Xianxian to take off her veil, the manager of this place did not appear. It was obvious that he did not care about a mere dancer. If any of the people here were to speak up and buy her, this woman would only become their plaything. She has looks but no ability to protect herself. It's only a matter of time before she falls into a dangerous situation. Xianyuan Mose said flatly. He merely swept a glance at the woman below, then averted his gaze. From their point of view, even if the woman was innocent, she should have known that she was going to face such a situation in a place like this. They did not have the time to care about other people's affairs. Aren't we going to fight the beasts? Why are we wasting time? What beast will be coming out for the next round? Fengjiu's voice rang out faintly, interrupting the crowd's discussion about the woman. Hearing this lazy voice, the attention of those people was immediately attracted. They couldn't help but look towards the 9th room. When they vaguely saw the red figure, they smiled and looked at the black figure, saying, "Speaking of which, the guest from the 9th room hasn't shown up yet. You came to Sky City and even brought a beauty with you. Sir, you're quite an elegant person. I wonder if the beauty beside you can come out to meet me." Just as that person's voice fell, Xianyuan Mo's deep eyes flashed with a cold light. He raised his hand to condense a stream of air and attacked that man with lightning speed. Swish! Hiss! Ah! A sharp airflow streaked across the air and hit the man's calf with a swoosh. The bone-chilling airflow hit his calf, causing him to involuntarily suck in a breath of cold air and cry out in pain. His entire body was thrown out of the railing due to inertia. Before anyone could react, he fell heavily to the ground floor with a bang. Ah! His body fell heavily to the ground, causing him to groan in pain. It was as if his blood and qi could not flow for a moment, making it difficult for him to even breathe. He held his breath and lay on the ground for a while to recover. It was also at this moment that the crowd finally reacted and cried out in surprise. Hiss! He actually fell down. Sir! Chapter 2938. For a moment, the scene seemed to be a little chaotic. Those who were originally standing by the railing slowly came back to their senses and looked at the room where Fengjiu and the others were. Just now, that person was talking to room number 9, which was why he suddenly fell down. It seemed that the person in room number 9 had injured him. Young master. A man quickly stepped forward and helped the man lying on the ground up. He asked anxiously, "Young master, how are you? Where are you hurt?" Hiss. "My leg, my calf." The man in luxurious clothes pointed at his calf and said. The man in martial arts clothes quickly bent down to check. When he rolled up the man's trousers and saw that his calf was slightly red and swollen, he couldn't help but gasp. "It's swollen." The man in room number 5 stood by the railing with his hands behind his back. He looked at the man in black robes who stood up and walked out of the water curtain. When he saw the man in black robes, a strange look flashed across his eyes. He didn't expect him to be so young and so outstanding. Just because the man said a few words that offended the woman in red, the man in black robes attacked him. It was obvious that the woman in red was extraordinary to him. Xianyuan Mo's stood by the railing with his hands behind his back. He didn't hide his peak divine realm aura at all. He looked down at the man in luxurious clothes below and said in a deep voice, "It was I who injured you. What can you do about it?" When the man in luxurious clothes who was supported by the accompanying guards heard this, he couldn't help but grit his teeth. "If you have the guts, leave your name." Ha! Xianyuan Mo sneered, his deep black eyes filled with coldness. "You want to know my name? You overestimate yourself." As he spoke, his tone was very arrogant, as if he didn't take him seriously at all. "You." The man stared at Xianyuan Mo's. Perhaps because he was the only one with him, his calf was red and swollen. He immediately shouted, "Where's the manager here? Come out." Seeing this, the manager who didn't want to interfere in their affairs could only walk out and laugh. "Guests, let's each take a step back. After all, this is Sky City. If things get out of hand, it won't be good for anyone. That's simple. Why don't we just ask number 9 to give the red-dressed beauty to number 13's guest?" A man crossed his arms and leaned against the railing as he spoke. It was as if he wasn't afraid of making a big deal out of it. He even deliberately stirred up trouble. Hearing this, the man looked at Xianyuan Mo's provocatively and said, "That's right. If you want me to take a step back, it's easy. Hand over the woman in red. Xianyuan Mo's eyes turned cold. Just as he was about to speak, he saw the crystal curtain open and Fengjiu walk out. Fengjiu grabbed his hand and with a light squeeze, his anger was suppressed. He looked at her and saw that she was smiling. She looked at him with a gentle gaze before looking at the man in luxurious clothes who was being supported below. At this moment, as she appeared, the man in room 5 stared at her with a burning gaze. The others also stared at her in shock. It was as if they had never expected the woman behind the crystal curtain to possess such a devastatingly beautiful appearance. Chapter 29:39. The man in luxurious clothes looked at the beautiful woman in red and felt his heart beating fast. There had never been a woman who could make his heart beat faster with a single glance. Thus, he took a deep breath and calmed the anger in his heart, saying, "Since the beauty has spoken, this young master naturally won't bicker with you. However, I wonder, who is this person to you?" His gaze moved away from Fengjiu and landed on Xianyuan Mo's. Seeing this person's attitude towards the red-clothed woman, this red-clothed woman was most likely not an ordinary beauty. Fengjiu pursed his lips and smiled, his voice neither fast nor slow. "This is my husband. Young master spoke inappropriately earlier, so don't blame my husband for being angry. You're married?" When the man in luxurious clothes heard this, he immediately became anxious and even raised his voice. "Naturally," she replied with a smile. "So what if you're married? If young master Yuan likes this beauty, just take her home. She's just a woman. Moreover, with the Yuan family's influence in Four Corner City, there's no need to be so indecisive." The man who had stirred up trouble earlier spoke again, looking at them as if he was watching a good show. Hearing this, Fengjiu glanced at the man leaning against the railing and asked with a smile, "Does this guest have a grudge with the young master downstairs?" Hearing this, the man in luxurious clothes downstairs glanced at the man upstairs, not knowing what he was thinking. When the man leaning against the railing upstairs heard this, he asked, "Of course I have no grudge with young master Yuan. The ones with grudges should be you. Just now, your husband made young master Yuan fall down with one move and even injured his calf." His voice paused and his lips curled into a sneer. "Only young master Yuan is magnanimous enough to not make a move against you. If it were anyone else, it wouldn't be so easy to calm down. And, it seems like there really is a grudge." Fengjiu nodded as if it was true. Looking at the man in luxurious clothes below, he said with a smile that wasn't a smile, "Young master Yuan, this guest wants to stir up trouble. He wants to borrow our hands to kill you. This is a great grudge, so you have to be careful. Otherwise, you won't even know when you'll be tricked." Hearing Fengjiu's words and seeing the man's expression change, how could the man in luxurious clothes not see it? He stared at the man coldly and said to the steward, "What are you still standing there for? Why aren't you finding some medicine to treat this young master's wound? Young master Yuan, the injury on your leg was caused by my husband. Since that's the case, we should pay for the medicine as an apology to you." Feng Jiu flicked her sleeve as she spoke, and a bottle of medicine fell onto the ground. Young master Yuan caught it and glanced at Feng Jiu, then glanced at Xianyuan Mo's. In the end, he said, "Fine, it's my fault for offending you. Since you've already given him the medicine, then let's forget about it. Young master is magnanimous. Please take a seat, I'll have the beautiful women bandage your wound." The steward hurriedly said and called for people to help him back. Seeing the matter that should have been settled so easily, the man in room number 5 who had been staring at Fengjiu had a glimmer in his eyes. There was a hint of admiration in his eyes. Chapter 29:40. Fengjiu glanced at him indifferently. She took Xianyuan Mo's hand and led him inside. She sat back down on the couch and said softly, "Or we can just attack him directly. There'll probably be a lot of trouble in the future. Forget it. Take a step back and everything will be fine." Xianyuan Mose looked at her and smiled. In the past, when you were all alone outside, I was always worried that you wouldn't be able to handle things. However, looking at how you've dealt with these days, it really proves that my worries were unnecessary. You're the only one who's worried all this time. Think about it, I've been alone for so many years. How could I not be able to handle such a small matter? She chuckled and said, what's more, sometimes using force isn't the best solution. It seems like I can cultivate in seclusion without worry. Xianyuan Mo said. He looked at her and said, I plan to cultivate in seclusion after I'm done with my work. I want to break through to the peak of God as soon as possible. There's a dwelling in the mountains behind our residence. I've asked Du Fan to set up a spirit gathering formation there. When the time comes, I'll set up some formations and barriers. No one will disturb you. As for the rest, you don't have to worry. I'll take care of it. She still had to refine some pills, so she couldn't cultivate in seclusion for the time being. Moreover, it wouldn't be appropriate for the two of them to cultivate in seclusion together. Moreover, she had just broken through recently. Even if she cultivated in seclusion, she wouldn't be able to break through to the peak of God. She could only stabilize her cultivation. Since that was the case, she might as well take advantage of this period of time to do some more things. She needed to stabilize her footing in Four Corner City first. On the other side, young Master Yuan returned to his room and sat down. He allowed Meiji to bandage his wounds. Not long after he used the medicine in the bottle to bandage his wounds, he felt the pain gradually disappear. He couldn't help but glance at the bottle in surprise. The effects of this medicine were quite strange. It actually took effect so quickly. Where did this medicine come from? He had never seen such a bottle or ointment in Four Corner City. Because of the scene from before, the guests in the other rooms in Sky City paid a little more attention to Room 9. However, right when the next battle was about to begin, the man who'd caused trouble earlier gazed at Fengjiu and the others and said, I wonder if the two of you from Room 9 would dare to make a bet with me? Hearing this, Fengjiu raised her eyebrows. She didn't want to cause trouble and didn't want to argue with them. Who knew that these people wouldn't stop? Since that was the case, if they didn't teach him a lesson, wouldn't he think that they were easy to bully? She chuckled and asked casually, what do you want to bet? How are we betting? Hearing this, the man's eyes lit up and he said, we'll each send a contract beast to fight. As for the wager, I'll take out 100,000 gold coins. How about it? Gold coins? It's so boring. Fengjiu said disinterestedly, if we don't have a good bet, this bet will be meaningless. Hearing this, the man's eyes flashed and he asked, then what do you want to bet? As Fengjiu spoke, she played with the hair in front of her chest and said unhurriedly, you were the one who suggested the bet. However, if the wager can't attract my interest, then there's naturally no need to bet. As for what you want to bet, it depends on what you can take out. Chapter 2941. I can take out something good, but that doesn't mean you can take out something good. As the man spoke, he looked at the faintly discernible red figure behind the crystal curtain. He narrowed his eyes and said, I am Jiang Shichang, the eldest son of the second branch of the Jiang family, one of the 8 great families of Four Corner City. Since you said you want to make a bigger bet, do you dare to bet on yourself? A murderous intent surfaced in Xianyuan Mo's eyes, and a cold aura emanated from his body. He stared at the man, but didn't say anything. He merely watched in silence, and his hand, which was resting on the side of the couch, moved slightly, and gently tapped on the armrest. You want to bet on me? Fengjiu chuckled. She stood up and slowly walked out of the crystal curtain. She stood by the railing and looked at the man, asking, where is your bet? Hearing this, a dim light flashed through the man's eyes. He raised his chin and immediately said, I'll bet 10,000-year-old spiritual herbs and 100,000 crystal stones. How about it? Is this enough to bet on you? Fengjiu chuckled, I didn't know I was so cheap. This is the first time someone has offered such a price to bet on me. You're quite bold. When the others heard this, they were slightly surprised. 10,000-year-old spiritual herbs were already a sky-high price. Adding on 100,000 crystal stones, even for the 8 great families of Four Corner City, this 100,000 crystal stones was equivalent to 10 years of their expenses. This Jiang Shichang actually dared to make such a bet, just for that red-clothed girl? In their opinion, no matter how beautiful that woman was, she was still just a woman. Why would he use such a sky-high price to bet on this? If he lost, even the master of the Jiang family would not let him off easily. After all, even if it was the second branch, it still represented the foundation of an aristocratic family. If he used it to bet on a woman, everyone would probably curse Jiang Shichang for being brainless. However, if he calculated that he would definitely win, then it would be a different story. To lure the red-robed lady into the trap with such extravagance was like trying to gain something without risking anything. Furthermore, as far as they knew, this Jiang Shichang had recently obtained a contract beast, which was already a 5th-order matured divine beast. As for that red-robed lady, they felt that she couldn't take out a contract beast at the level of a mythological beast, so the possibility of losing was very high. Judging from the way that woman handled things, she shouldn't be a brainless person. Everyone knew that such a bet couldn't be made. Unexpectedly, just as they were thinking about it, they heard the woman in red's voice. Since we're going to gamble, then we'll have to bring the money here. Anyway, it's still early. Young Master Jiang can go and make the arrangements so that everyone here can be witnesses. Hearing this, Jiang Shichang paused for a moment before replying, all right. He took off his token and instructed his attendant to do as he was told. At this moment, the people in the other rooms laughed and said, Miss, you will definitely lose this bet with him. Where is your husband? Is he going to let you do whatever you want? With their cultivation, they could naturally see that this woman was still a virgin. What husband? They were probably just saying it casually. If it was true, how could they let her gamble with herself? Chapter 2942. He turned his gaze to Jiang Shichang and said, Young Master Jiang, I was right, wasn't I? Then why? He glanced at Yuan He and said, Our Jiang clan and your Yuan clan have always minded our own business. You better not meddle in other people's business. Can't young Master Jiang see? This Yuan He, young Master Yuan, is also interested in this red-clothed beauty. Another person laughed heartily. After glancing at them, his gaze fell on Fengjiu. I didn't expect that the beast battle arena would become a competition for a beauty. Interesting. When Fengjiu heard this, he didn't say anything more. He just let the manager arrange for another dance. At this moment, Bai Xian, who had been ignored by everyone, appeared again. She was still the lead dancer, but her gaze would occasionally glance at Fengjiu. She was also a woman, but she was as low as the mud on the ground, while that woman was as high as the clouds in the sky. Seeing so many young masters from aristocratic families fighting to be the first to curry favor with her, she couldn't help but feel a trace of envy. They were clearly the same person, so why was she so different from the rest? As time passed, the news of the bet between the young masters of these aristocratic families spread. However, because the place was in the sky, it cost 2,000 gold coins to come up. Therefore, each family only sent 1 or 2 people to see what was going on. In some of the rooms where no one had spoken, the guests sat and drank tea and wine, waiting to watch the show. In one of the rooms, behind the crystal curtain, one could vaguely see the figures of a middle-aged man and an old man sitting and chatting. Who do you think will win? The middle-aged man asked as he took a sip of wine. Do you still need to ask? The old man stroked his beard and smiled. Looking at the red figure, he said, Don't you have an idea in your heart? Hee hee. The middle-aged man chuckled and said, I just don't know what this girl's contracted beast will be. It definitely won't be an ordinary creature. However, these 2 people look very unfamiliar. They shouldn't be from Four Corner City, right? The old man asked, sizing up Fengjiu. Yes, I've never seen or heard of such a person before. The middle-aged man drank his wine and said with a smile, I'm really looking forward to it. It's more exciting than watching a fight. This fight is also cruel. If you don't have a life-saving jade token, you can only be swallowed alive in the end. The old man sighed and shook his white head. If there's a goal, there's a risk. There's nothing in this world that is easy to obtain. The middle-aged man said unhurriedly. As if he had thought of something, he glanced at the old man and asked, What about you? You haven't found the longevity fruit after so long. The old man revealed a bitter smile. You think it's that easy to find the fruit? I've been looking for it for 3 years and there's no news at all. It takes 500 years to bloom and 500 years to bear fruit. Each fruit can increase one's lifespan by 100 years. This kind of thing is very precious. Even if there is one, I don't think anyone would be willing to take it out. They would all hide it and keep it for themselves in case they need it. The middle-aged man said slowly. He glanced at the old man's white hair and said, With your old appearance, no one would know that you're 3 years younger than me. Chapter 29:43. There were countless cultivators, but not all of them had a lifespan of 1,000 years and exceptional talent. The continent they were in was called the Upper Realm, but it was only because the spiritual energy was richer and more suitable for cultivators to live in. However, it didn't mean that every cultivator here had amazing strength. It also didn't mean that divine realm experts could be seen everywhere. After all, only the venerables in the big sects had the strength of a divine realm expert. As for those venerables, which one of them was not an old monster who had cultivated for hundreds of years? Which one of them was not the ancestor of the family? Many families could not produce a single divine realm powerhouse even if they exhausted all of their resources. It was obvious how stable the status of those sects was. He had cultivated for almost 500 years and had originally entered the fairy realm. However, because of a serious injury, his strength had regressed to the peak of the nascent soul realm. Now that his lifespan was about to end and his face was gradually aging, how could he not be anxious? However, even if he was anxious, what was the use? A lifespan fruit that took 500 years to bloom and bear fruit was difficult to find. Even if there was one, the collector would not be willing to take it out. It was precisely because he understood this point that he felt that he did not have much time left. Just as the two of them were talking, an old man and a middle-aged man from the Jiang family came in. They looked around and asked the attendant who had returned earlier, Where is the young master? Great elder. Third uncle. Why are you here? When Jiang Shichang saw the two people, he could not help but be shocked and hurriedly came down from above. The two of them stood with their hands behind their backs and looked at Jiang Shichang who came in front of them. They asked in a deep voice, You want to bet 10,000-year-old spiritual herbs and 100,000 crystal stones with a woman? And if you win, you will only win against that woman? We want to see what kind of woman you are to make you lose your sense of propriety. Being reprimanded by two elders in front of so many people, he couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed, but he didn't dare to say anything. It would be fine if it were someone else, but one of them was the Jiang clan's grand elder, and the other was his third uncle, so he didn't dare to say anything. Hearing this, Fengjiu smiled. She leaned against the railing and looked at the three people below, saying, Young Master Jiang said that he wanted to use me as a wager. I already reluctantly agreed. After all, it's just 10,000 years old spiritual herbs. 100,000 crystal stones is not even worth a finger of mine. Hearing this, the old man and the middle-aged man raised their heads and saw the woman in red leaning against the railing. They couldn't help but frown. Even if this woman was an outstanding beauty, he still couldn't use those things to gamble. Even if he was sure to win, there was no point in winning against such a woman. If word got out, he would become a joke. At that moment, the two of them looked at each other and then at the woman in red. The middle-aged man cupped his hands and said, I was rude to use you as a wager. I'm sorry for offending you. Fengjiu smiled and looked at the two of them. She saw that the old man was a cultivator at the peak of the fairy realm, and the middle-aged man was a cultivator at the middle stage of the fairy realm. The two of them obviously wanted to stop the wager, but they didn't directly say that they didn't want to bet. Instead, they apologized and said that they had offended her. It had to be said that the way these two handled things was much better than Jiang Shichang's. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.